episode of UVZ favorite trips, and as usual, we've got our panel of guests here. So today we've got Lou Thompson, uh, Michael, and Peter, as usual, from Straight Gut Motorcycles. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us on the panel tonight. And tonight we're talking favorite motorcycle trips again. So just for those of you who don't know, or for those of you who don't know the panel, could you just, starting with you, Lou, tell everyone what bike you're riding and why?
Well, my current motorcycle is the Indian Scout 2017 version. It's a two-tone one, blue and white. The reason that I chose that particular colour was I like the fact that they brought that one out to support the Wall of Death motorcyclists. So that was why I chose the colour. I went for a test ride on it. I've always liked the Indian and just fell in love. I just had this really stupid grin on my face from the start to the end of the test ride, and that was it really. I didn't need any other bikes, but I have been playing around with it. You know, you change things. I've got new headlight, I've got nice new pegs and all that sort of thing, and a more comfortable seat.
I think that's quite an important one. I've broken the rules and I've put the audio on, so sorry about that, guys. We got a bit of feedback there. I'm just getting the pop-up chat, so we don't miss any of the questions coming through from the panel or from the guests. And I've got that up now. And yourself, Michael?
Right. Pretty new to this. I've just purchased a Challenger 2020 in blue. So that's my new bike with 200 miles on the clock. So I'm not doing too bad. I've sort of picked it up and shoved it in the garage, giving it a clean. Done a couple of bits to it, but been riding bikes since the early 80s. At the moment, I've got the Challenger, I've got an Aprilia, Futura, Suzuki RF 900, and a Vespa 200. So a little bit of a
Peter, yourself? Sorry, Michael, carry on.
Okay. No, just a little bit different. I've toured all around Europe on the Vespas and on motorcycles in the past. So this is my first time with a proper cruiser. And the only 200 miles I've done has been a little bit of a challenge at low speed. So that's something I've just got to get used to, the extra weight. Because most of the things I've been riding, I can just throw around and manoeuvre in the garage quite easy. This one's a bit of a beast. Nice.
And yourself, Peter?
Well, I'm the odd one out because I don't have an Indian. I'm the same as Michael. Yes. I've got a Triumph Tucson R, which I picked up at the beginning of March, and I've done about 200 miles, and it's been sat in the garage, obviously with everything going on. And I have my BMW K1200 GT, which is the main touring bike and the one that me and the wife goes out on as well.
Nice. As usual, I'm an Indian guy as well. I've got my Indian Chieftain in silver and black. And I pretty much go wherever my bike will take me. At the moment, though, it's just to the garage. Just a few rules for the evening. No swearing, rude gestures, or drinking. So anyone who falls into that category, just make sure you hide it. And there we go. So I'll tell you what, Louise, why don't you start telling us a little bit more about your bike and your trip?
Thank you. I have not been riding on the big bikes for very long, about 10 years. But one of my favourite trips was I went with a group to Assen to watch the racing.
Oh, nice.
And it was my first trip riding on the wrong side of the road. So I was a bit nervous about that, but I had a really great group of motorcyclists. They were all from Essex, and they, just made me feel really comfortable, including when we did all the touring. And we went all the way around, really nice roads. It was really easy. I came back on a high. And I also got to meet the riders, although you're not allowed to speak to them on the actual track itself. And I also got to have a go in the very fast speeding car, but they do all the checks and safety for. And that was quite an experience, because that was you were literally like that for the entire ride, and you're trying to go, how fast is he going? But you can't quite get yourself up, which was really good fun. That was the bike I went on, my ERF 650 then. It was Kawasaki. It was my first big bike. And what I like about that particular bike is it's quite what's the word? It's quite friendly in, if you make a small mistake, it can cope with it. So, it kind of almost adjusts a little bit for it. And you do when you're first on the big bikes, when you're sort of, different balance. It's quite different from, the 125s that I'd ridden a long time. It just was a good bike, a good first bike to go for. I did try a number, but that's the one that felt the most comfortable about it. I also went to, this picture here, I decided to up my skills, and I did the motorcycle safety course, the Safe Rider course with the police and the fire brigade, which I have to say was absolutely excellent. But interestingly enough, in this particular one, I was the only lady in the group, and was the first one to be offered if I wanted to sit on the bike. So I said, yeah, why not? So, of course, because I said I wanted to, all the guys wanted to sit on it as well. So it was this kind of cute to go on this big BMW. So they were fantastic. This was up at Suffolk, this particular group. They were just really, really good. I also went to a Hells Angel family party with a friend, and that was an interesting experience. We had lots of live music and all the different groups, and there was a beautiful Indian, old style Indian there that was for sale but was still out of my price range, but it was all the original, the red color and everything. So that was quite an experience. I did do the Indian ride to the Ace Cafe. This is us leaving from Crazy Horse in Welling. So we all went out on a ride together, and my bike was just in the middle. There she is. So as you can see, my hair is made to go with my motorcycle colour. And the other thing that was quite exciting was my husband and I like to go to Thailand for holidays. And we ended up going to a motorcycle party. That was some of the people at the of their bikes, which were predominantly Harley Davidson and one Indian. So that was quite an interesting party. And, it's like whenever you go anywhere, most bikers are really friendly, and, they just welcomed us in with open arms. And, I wasn't riding on that particular occasion, but, they shared their food with us. We had drinks with them. It was just a really, really good, fun event. So you can go anywhere and join a motorcycle party if you like.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good experience. I'm not sure if I can handle all the traffic.
Well, they do a ride out there. Part of it's like a 3 or 4 day event, and 2 of the days is you can go on this trip and go around the coast with them as a group, which probably would have been a nicer one to do. I think that was something like 300 miles. So it was all the way around the coast and back to the centre. This was at Hua Hin that we went to. But I didn't do that one because I didn't find out about it until a bit later on. Because I happened to see a really cool bike that had been put together by the guy who ran the local tattoo shop. And then we started talking bikes. He said, there's this thing going on. So I said, oh, no, I didn't know about that. So my husband, who's not a biker, I made him go with me so that we could just have a bit of fun. But no, it was really good, really enjoyable.
Awesome, Michael,
Right.
what about yourself, mate? Tell me a little bit about one of your favourite trips that you've been on.
Oh, going back to about 1997. Had a RF 900 back then, brand new one, and me and one of my best mates and his wife and my partner, we rode right the way down to the south of Spain, all on back roads, all up through Andorra, and the scenery, all on the back roads. You just can't see all of that sort of.
No, that goes
pictures.
back a little while.
Well, that one,
your
that was a Bandit 600, one of the first ones in the country, 1995. That was.
Jeez.
I had that just over 3 years.
Yeah,
I've done 33,000 miles on that, and I toured I've been around most of the UK because I was in the Suzuki Owners Club back then, and I think I'd done 1 year. I'd done probably about 48 weekends camping.
wow.
Nearly every weekend I was away camping, snowing, rain, everything. Scotland, down to Cornwall, everywhere. That got a bit of a hide in that bike through the weather. But I went over to the RF9s for a bit more luxury and touring. The one in 97 right the way down, went to Italy on that as well. You just can't describe the scenery when you're cruising along. But I then got rid of that and went over to the Aprilia. Oh, that was me first RF9. That's me Vespa. But that's me first RF 900. That's me Vespa I went to Italy on.
Nice.
That was right the way over to near Venice. That took us 4.5 days. That was all on back roads doing 50, 60 mile an hour. That was a little place we stayed up in a little mountain village. Some 1950 scooters, all modified, pretty quick, some of them. And really, really good scenery, as you can see there. Nice slow pace, no rushing. That was in Italy. Scooter rally, 3,000 people there on one site.
Wow.
With all the camping was all part of the trip, and a breakfast and an evening meal. And we just sort of took over the places we went to. That was a ride out of about 2,000 scooters.
Wow. Where was this from? I noticed this from earlier. Where was that?
That was right down in somewhere down in Spain in a harbour. Just to the right of that picture was a huge liner, and we just stopped. We carried a spare set of clothes in the back boxes, and we used to strip off in the car parks from our levers, put our normal clothes on, and then walk around. But that was back in 1997 it was. That's my best mate Ian. So that was good times, good trips. And that's when I bought. I had the RF 900 there in the red, and I went out and bought the Aprilia Futura, which I've still got. And that was up in Andorra, right on the top of Andorra. That was.
So that looks amazing.
Yeah, the views and the roads. Yeah, we had a bit of a race with a sports car down the road. Yeah, and just couldn't keep up with it because of the hairpins. That was just gone. Wow, really good times.
Awesome, man. What about yourself, Pete? You've chosen a fairly local trip.
Well, it's UK based, let's put it that way. Yeah, it's the Bike Shed Festival from last year, and I think that's when I first met you, Sean. If I remember correctly.
I'm not sure if that's where we first met, but it's definitely one of the first times we've actually said more than 2 or 3 words to each other.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so that's I've only been riding for just over a year, so
Yeah.
I haven't done any European tours or anything like that yet. The plan was to try and do one this year, but obviously with everything going on, that's gone out of the window. But yeah, Liddon Hill, great place, nice little track by the looks of things. Yeah, we had a good time camping. I think this we left Saturday. We went down on the Friday, camped Friday night. I think we left on the Saturday because they forecast bad weather on the Sunday, and it turned out being glorious day on the Sunday. So we got shafted with that one, really.
Yeah, I remember I came up just for the day.
Yeah,
it was quite good. I enjoyed the
racing.
Yeah.
The racing was brilliant because you obviously got bikes from the early eras and all that, all the way up to I think it's like 97, 98. The 600 cc's, but you didn't have anything newer than that. So yeah, it's all old school bikes and custom jobs and stuff like that, and it was a great crack. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there was even a guy on a big Indian Chief dark horse. Busy racing it, and every time we went around a corner, you just see sparks flying on the bottom end of the circuit. Anybody who doesn't know Liddon Hill racetrack, it's sort of sitting at a slant on a hill like that, and it's got a tight series of turns. And the way that the track was running, as you're coming down the end, you've got a reasonably long straight for the circuits anyway, and the guys are hitting some serious speeds, and then they get to the bottom and realize that there's a sharp turn. Now, especially if you're on a bagger, it's not necessarily the most maneuverable, and the guys are just constantly.
Yeah, I don't think you had much exhaust pipe left after the end.
No,
because it's only a mile-long track in total.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely taking the bottom of those exhaust fans clean off.
Yeah, no, it was definitely it was a good experience. I've never been.
Yeah, fair play to him for taking it round. I don't think I would have done if I had a bike like that personally. But
which one? So say.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's on, and it'd be nice to go there and do the camp again, and hopefully we get some nice weather. And there's plenty of stalls and bars and food and all that there as well. So no, it's a great weekend.
Yeah,
it was a bit interesting actually going onto the field because I think it rained the night before, and you kind of come through the gates of a gravel road onto a bit of a muddy field, and the BMW just didn't like it at all, and the back end tried stepping out on me at about 4 miles an hour.
We had a lot of fun with this chair. It was this massive chair.
Oh yeah.
Basically, so if I could fit on there, it's a big chair, but then we just had everyone else as well. So it was a pretty big chair.
Yeah, that was my chair once you lot got off it. I tell you, it was a pain getting home on the back of the bike. I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was taking people out along the old paths and everything.
Let's talk about my trip then.
Which one?
We're going to talk about Scotland, I think.
Yeah.
Your second home.
Yeah, to be fair, probably you could probably describe it as that. I mean, to be honest, I was meant to be in Scotland the week the lockdown started. I was going to go, and when the lockdown came in, I just decided to leave that. But I thought I'd bring up a little map to give everyone an idea as to sort of the type of route that I would normally follow. Now, as you can see, I've actually deleted quite a few routes, but I go pretty much everywhere. But I'm just outside of London here, and then obviously I make my way up. And typically, I start my route here in the Lake District by Windermere. And the main reason for that is just on the other side of Lake Windermere, coming up here is a place called Kirkstone Pass, and I'm just going to see which way that is. I think this is it here, and just to give you an idea as to why I'm on about this place, and I'll just show you on the screen. And basically, it's essentially a pass up a mountain side, and it's going through a big valley. And you can see with the big mountains on either side of the screen, and then it's just absolutely picturesque, and it's such a surreal feeling going through there. But it's certainly, I think, something that if you're into riding, that I would definitely go and do. It's one of those things that you haven't done a proper tour unless you've actually been there. In my opinion, anyway. I think like some of the other places in Italy and Europe and all that kind of stuff. It is absolutely amazing. But for me, Scotland and that sort of section of road is probably amongst the top parts of riding for me. So let me just go back to oh no, I've lost the other page that I was using. Just bear with me a second. I just wanted to show you guys on the map what I was doing. I think I've probably closed the page. I'll just bring it up. Just have a little look at the video. Let me just go back there. Sorry, guys. There's so many of these things to go through.
Back in my day, we just had a camera. The old-fashioned camera. Change the roll of film, and then you find out you've got water in the camera, and none of the pictures come out.
Yeah. There we go. I found it.
And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Here we go. So then from there, I head sort of towards Carlisle, around the back area, and the main reason for that is there's quite a few lochs in the area. Try and avoid as much of the motorway as possible, but at the same time, there's some of these areas that you just want to sort of get the trip, get through those areas, so that you can get deeper into Scotland. Because for me, some of the most spectacular routes in Scotland starts in this area, just past Glasgow, when you start hitting the back end of the lochs. And particularly for me, when you get to Fort William in Glencoe, because it's got such a wide variety of, lochs, mountain ranges, and etc. I've actually got another little section that I wanted to show you guys. Now, this is a stretch on the way to Glencoe, Fort William, and it is just superb. And this leading up to Glencoe, there's it's quite flat plains, and then you get the odd mountain peak, as you can see. But once you actually get into the mountain peaks, it's just absolutely amazing. Let me just here we go. Let me just hit this forward a little bit. And you get hello. You get to the point where there's so many beautiful turns in waterfalls and everything, and it's almost like after a half hour or something, it's so beautiful it almost becomes boring. It's like a sensory overload when you're going around and you just see amazing, and I got to the point where I actually stopped. I didn't stop anymore because it was just like it was too much. Otherwise, you'd never actually get anywhere because it's just absolute beauty. Now, this particular area here is amazing. I mean, there's so many waterfalls, especially off the left-hand side of this road as you come around this bend. Is just amazing. Now you can't see the waterfalls too clearly, obviously because it's a fairly small screen. And when I was recording, I had a bit of a blip, so I didn't record in 2.7K as I normally would. So it's a much lower resolution, but it's fantastic. Look at those mountains, and honestly, it doesn't actually do it justice in terms of the video, but you literally just, it's in this sort of, what do you call it? You're basically carving your way through the mountain and you're just surrounded by absolute beauty. It's just fantastic. And then, as usual, you go through that and the sun is out and everything is awesome. And the next thing you're just getting rained on. And, one of the things I think, that you get, especially when you're going around the lochs, is you've got constant water running across the road in certain areas. So even if the water or the weather is really great and it's sunny out there, hey Grumpy, you okay? So hopefully, sorry, I'm going on the wrong track now. So what happens is you've got the water running across the roads all the time. And then, so you're not expecting anything. You come around a bend and it's just there's water running across. And then because it's constantly wet, you got all the moss and stuff on the road. So one of the things to keep an eye out for, and certainly something that is, I suppose, makes it even more interesting because sorry, I'm just trying to do something. I'm one of those men who can't multitask.
None of us can.
So yeah, so definitely, I'm a waste of space when it comes to trying to multitask. But yeah, so that's the little bit about the Scotland trips. So what I'm going to do now is just change tone a little bit and get into some audience questions. So if there's anybody out there who's looking for has got some questions for the panel, please ask us. And we're happy to answer the questions. So I'm going to start it off with a couple of questions that we've received earlier during the week, and I'm just going to bring them across and share them with you guys, and then we'll deal with that. So one of our friends, there we go. Tony Marsland has asked a question, and I suppose it's more for the touring guys. He's got a question on screen heights and the wind buffering. He says, I tried on various I tried various on the Chieftain, but couldn't really say anywhere the real answer. Never had an issue on the Scout. It's just the fairings that cause it. So I'm not sure if you guys have got much of experience with that, but obviously I've got the same bike as what Tony's got, and certainly for me, I found that whilst I was getting used to the bike, the wind buffering was an issue because obviously I wasn't sure how to deal with it. But the more I rode, the more sort of used I got to it. Now, one of the things that it depends on what aspect you're trying to deal with, because some of it could be a case of you just sort of trying to get rid of some of the wind noise, which doesn't bother me, or it's just the wind hitting you. Now, that's the one aspect for me that I always try and get rid of because of the audio when I'm recording. So I've got a much higher screen on my bike. I actually put a screen that's essentially twice the height of the normal Indian Chieftain screen. And it definitely gives you a much better shielding, although you can't avoid it. Obviously, depending on your speed as well. So I would say in order to avoid as much of the buffering is don't ride like a lunatic, which is probably probably an obvious one, but certainly I would say is if you do have an issue with the wind buffering, try the higher screen. It definitely does make a big difference in terms of shielding you. I'm not sure if you've had that on your bike, Michael.
Yeah, well, obviously I've only done 200 miles.
Yeah.
And I've test rode the Harley Davidson Street Glide as well.
Yeah.
And I test rode the Chieftain. And I mean, the Harley was horrendous. My head was being thrown around all over the place. The Chieftain was a lot better, but the Challenger, that just catches me on the top of the crash helmet. I'm 5'8", and all I get is just a little bounce on the top of my head, which is not too bad. I can move myself around and just get out of that little bit of a wind. So I'm gonna invest in a flip up one when we get out of this and see if that makes a difference. But it's nice to have the adjustable screen as well, especially around town. You just drop it down and just let the air flow in, and the little flaps that open up that let the air through as well. So, but generally, go from my sports tourers to the Challenger. The Challenger, I get a lot more buffeting on than any of the other sports tourers I've had.
Yeah. Lou, have you had any issues with wind buffering?
On the Scout, I haven't actually put anything up to stop that, but I do find sort of 70 and above, you do get knocked about a little bit. Whereas the sports bike, I had one that was slightly raised up a little bit, and that did help with the buffering. So it is something I think I might have to invest in.
Just leading into the next question, Pete, before we get to yourself, have you got the flat bars, or have you got more slightly bobber style handles on your bike, Lou?
I didn't go for the bobber style. Mine, the original was a slight curve to it.
Yes.
I did debate about getting beach bars on it because I like the style of that, but it makes the filtering a little bit more tricky because it comes out a bit wider than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. Pete, now your favorite bike is the Triumph, but it doesn't have much of a fairing, but your BMW has got a bit of a fairing. How are you finding the wind on that?
Right, well, it's unusual. So on the BMW, I've got a full electric screen like you have on your bike. I normally set it about halfway to keep the wind not hitting my chest. If I put the screen right up on the motorways, I then get it sucks you into the screen. It's very weird. But again, I get buffeting on the helmet and that.
Yeah.
On the Triumph, I get none of that whatsoever. I don't get any wind hitting me on the body, on the helmet. It's smooth. I don't know how they've done it, but it's clean air coming off the front of the bike. I can't figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, with me trying to do video, wind noise has been the bane of my life because you pick up so much wind noise. And, I had such a problem, and I had arguments with people, and it's just, trying to
Well, it comes up underneath the helmet.
Yeah.
So as the wind comes, so you can buy a thing called a wind jammer, which goes around the bottom of the helmet. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know if it's any good. But that could be a suggestion in regards to sorting out a bit of wind noise.
Yeah, and I think I think, you know, without going on too much about that, I think there's a few things that with the Chieftain in particular that probably makes it worse. Is that the fairing is quite a wide fairing, so it does push a lot of wind in there. And I think the advantage that you've got on your bike, Michael,
Peter.
I almost called you Peter. I was looking at you and thinking,
we'll all answer to Peter.
If I go panel, but your bike's got the fixed fairing, so I think it takes a lot of that out. And my experience from riding the Challengers is that you have a lot less hit by the wind, purely because I think the fairing is already doing the fighting for you, or the frame is already doing the fighting for you, so you don't get the extra action off of that. Plus, obviously, it would have been aerodynamically, they've done quite a bit of work. But I think with a Chieftain, maybe it's got quite a flat surface around the front, and it sends a lot of wind all over the place. And I think, I'm not sure if you agree, Mike, but you know, I think
the Challenger's got little bits sticking out the side on the fairing, little smoke plastic things, so they just deflect the air around like your arms. But if you open up the little vents, that lets a bit of air, and that changes it as well. So I don't get sucked in. It doesn't pull me away. It's just a small buffeting on, just clips the top of the crash helmet, and it's just free air in front of me. It's just nothing there. You could probably light a lighter up.
Yeah, I think
you could probably light a lighter up and get a flame going. Yeah. You know, because it's so calm.
I think Mac, the other guy who got the first Challenger in the UK, might have changed his screen, but I'm not sure. I know that one of my friends, who's normally on the panel, Jeff Rutland, he actually donated a extra high windscreen for myself. And one of my previous videos that I did, I actually made a point of recording the entire video, and it wasn't in a one stretch thing. And I did zero wind noise editing or anything like that. And actually, the sound came out perfect. I'm not sure if you've seen that one, Peter. It's the COVID-19 new reality video. And literally, there's absolutely zero wind noise, and it's just because of that extra screen. It makes the world of difference. But it's a tuck and go. But at the same time, for me, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that I do very fast on the bike, but I do enjoy riding to a certain level, and I don't find that the wind hits me at all. But it's maybe just because I've gotten used to it.
So when you did that recording, and you had the new tool screen on, did you have that set in its lowest position or its highest position?
Say again?
So when you had the new screen on and you did that recording, did you have it set in its highest position?
So yes. So what I do is if I'm doing just pleasure riding, I'll keep it on the lowest setting. Now the lowest setting with the extra tall screen is what the highest setting was before.
Right.
And when I then do recording, I put the level up, and I've tested it, and you can hear the amount of wind noise that actually. I've been in the situation where I did 90 kilometers an hour, and because we work in kilometers an hour, don't we? And I was well, I must have been on the wrong setting, and the
speedo's different at all.
No, it's just I think I had it on kilometers because I was still when I was coming back from Europe, you know. Anyway, and I was recording, and I could actually record pretty much at as good a level as I could before, at that speed. So it really does make a big difference. Have you got a screen on your bike?
What about looking through the screen? Does that put you off looking through the screen?
No, not at all. I mean, I have to keep it clean so I can see through it, because there has been a few times when I couldn't see through my screen. But I'm tall enough anyway so that I see over the top, so it doesn't really impact me. And also because I've now got the helmet, the cam on top of the helmet, it doesn't affect me at all. So it's not really a problem. I mean, the thing is that I'm one of those deceptive characters. I'm like 6'2" and a bit, and 4 million pounds. And I think because of the weight, I'll probably take up a lot more space than you would normally think. But I certainly I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, some people might do, but then the point is, you wouldn't need a taller screen, because really what you want to do is that if you think about this, let me try and get the level right. I would say that is the sort of level, that the top level that your screen should be, because if you think about it, when the wind comes, it'll actually then shoot over your head, so you'll still have some wind hitting you. But one of the experiments I actually did is I go at a set speed, and I put my visor up, and at that speed, at this lower setting, the visor will close. But then what I'll do is I'll put the screen up, and I'll open the visor, and it won't affect it. It'll just stay up. And that shows you the massive amount of difference that you get.
Yes. This is what I get. So the BMW, I can't have my visor up at all.
Yeah.
But if I can have it up to 70 miles an hour.
And you don't go more than that.
It also affects the angle of the screen as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, bike, it's got nothing. It's got no screen on it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, I've seen your Triumph. So it's a gorgeous bike, and I'm not sure if it's the position or the way that it's been built, but it's just a thing.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with it. I love it. I love the fact that you can ride around, eyes are open, and get bugs in your eyes. It's brilliant.
Well, I would say that's probably one of the things that I'm not too keen on is the bugs in my eyes. I've been those days. I've swallowed a few bugs. And,
when you get to the hotel and they're just filling your beard and you got to break them out.
I'm not proud. I'll have a bug catcher any day. That's what I call my screen. It's my bug catcher. Jeff, actually, I mean, I've got a photo where my bike is absolutely covered in flies and insects and stuff. But Jeff has actually got one that's got like completely on the extreme. Let's just move over to the next question. I think we're almost at the end of these. I'll just and this is from someone that actually messaged me recently that I've befriended on Facebook, and he's saying, "Hi Sean, it's been a long winter, and he's looking forward to some advice." If possible, he's been riding sports tourers for a long time, and he's recently bought a Scouts. Good on you, Nom. It's a good choice. And he's not getting on very well with it. He's saying that the pulling off and slow speeds, he's all over the place. So he can't seem to get the footbreast position, or he's not comfortable with it. And he's wondering if I had any thoughts. No, I discussed. I actually sent Nom a few more messages after this. We were going backwards and forwards, and one of the things I think is that there's a few things for me with an Indian motorcycle that when you get into it, But now, from the there's also now a case of, if you've been riding other bikes for 30 years, you've got to take some time to get used to it, because it is completely different to a sports tourer, and it's going to feel completely foreign. And again, like what we were talking about, because of your seating position, you do get a lot more wind buffet. So you're going to get hit by a lot more wind because you're far more upright, and then instead of having your feet behind you in the crouch position, you've got them all the way forward. So I think one of the key things there is to make sure that you've got a decent screen, and also, and I think this is why I was asking you, Lou, about the handlebars. I think if you've got the bobber style, whilst it's comfortable in certain ways, it's far more. It almost feels like you've got less control until you get used to it, versus when you've got the wider bars. The wider bars tend to, you just sort of fall in with your arms. When I think with the bobber style, it's like I say, it's you don't necessarily have a huge amount of control, and it's something that you've got to like learn your way into, rather than just get on it and be comfortable with it. I mean, is that something that you experienced?
Yeah, actually, it's a really interesting question, because when I first moved over, I thought it was me, because I'd moved from a sports bike onto the Scout, and I found that I needed to move the handlebars slightly forward, but I also found that I didn't like the pegs that came with it in the position it was. And I have actually gone for, I've got quite tiny feet, so I've gone for small foot pegs, flat pegs. Flat boards is the word I'm looking for, sorry.
Almost, I thought you were going to say you had flat something else, and I thought, hang on a second, this is a family show.
I was getting there. And actually, that's made a huge difference. So I went in and chatted to the guys in the shop and said, I'm not really getting on very well, because my foot was sliding off. My foot was aching. It was, just not quite right. And once I had those, it's been such a difference, because it's, they're only about that big.
Yeah.
They're the can't remember the brand, but I'll send it to you later, Sean, so you could add it maybe.
Yeah, I'll send it across to Nom, yeah.
But they've just made such a difference, and they're adjustable. You can have them up or down. I'm a bit of a fidgeter, and my ride's so much better than it was when I had the normal pegs that came with it. Just didn't feel quite right for me.
Just on that part, do you have any issues at slow speeds and at takeaway? Did you find there was a big difference from what you were riding before?
A little bit, not a great deal, because it's a more powerful engine than the one I had before. So the taking away was really good. But what I did find for a little while was when I was coming back down, if you're slowing down for a roundabout, for example, I found that sometimes that would slip into neutral. It wasn't something I was expecting it to do. And that was all to do with where my foot pegs were, because how I was moving my foot was not quite right. So once I changed those, I've got no issues with the slow speeds at all.
Yeah.
I recently did, I'm doing the advanced training at the moment. Yeah. And I did one of these very slow speed maneuver ones.
Yeah.
And I felt quite chuffed, because when I was first looking at, going through these very tiny gaps through the cones, I thought, never going to get my bike through that. It's absolutely minute.
Yeah.
And, really was impressed how well it did handle at slow speed, considering obviously it's longer than the sports bike, and actually got paid a compliment. So, recognise that we, did a good job. Oh, I didn't think you were going to get through that. I didn't like to say neither did I when they now know. But, it did, it does make a difference. I think definitely look at the pegs and have a chat and see what works for you. It depends on the size foot you've got as well, obviously.
Did you try the Challenger at all, Michael?
Yeah, I've that's one of
not
my
the
big
Challenger.
Issues
Just on that, did you try the Scout before riding the Challenger or buying the Challenger?
No.
You just
I just went straight
in.
from.
Okay.
I went straight for the big stuff. But I mean, I've struggled with taking off and stopping, slowing down, putting my feet down, because obviously after riding the sports tourers and even the Vespa GTS, you're sitting up high and your legs almost go just straight down. But with the Challenger, it's you pull your legs forward and down, and they're sort of your knees are bent. So it's been hard to get the balance right. So I have to think about it when I'm stopping quite a bit. But then again, I've only done 200 miles, so I've got a lot to do. I've had to change the way I slow speed steer. I'm literally off the side as I'm turning to go round, opposite way as you do leaning on for cornering. Just to change the weight of the bike, and that makes a big difference. But it's one of them things that it doesn't feel normal, and it's got I'm not used to it myself, so I've got to get used to doing it.
Yeah, I find that anything sort of tourer related, I don't have an issue adapting immediately. And I've jumped between quite a few bikes, but the moment you go to something a little bit more sporty again, for me, like if I jump on a ZZR 1400, which is one of the bikes that I like, it's quite a big difference, because I need to put myself in positions that my body doesn't necessarily want to go into. So I need to be careful.
Well, that's what I'm finding with a Challenger. I'm having to put my legs and feet into different positions, and it's not natural. You're not used to it.
Yeah, and yourself, Pete, because you obviously had your BMW, which is more of a tourer, but then you bought the Triumph, and that's slightly more of a sporty position, I think.
It's very slightly more, but I find it more comfortable being on the Triumph than I do the BMW. But it's going back to the peg positions and all that. Remember, was it the Roadmaster you made me go out and rode?
Yes. I made you.
You made me go. I wanted to go on the FTR. I looked at this thing. It's just like I'm so used to the standard seating position that the fact that I had to ride this Roadmaster with my legs out in front, it's completely foreign. It was alien to me. And we only did 10, 15 miles, and the whole time I just couldn't get used to it. Changing gear it just felt like I was moving my foot in the wrong position, and it felt uncomfortable, and I started getting cramp and stuff like that. So I get, if you go from a sporty position or a normal riding position to where you've got your legs out in front, then it's going to take time to get rid of that muscle memory that you got from all those years of riding, to then allow it to then remember that position that you're in.
I remember that day when I said, Pete, here's a Roadmaster. You should have seen his face. He was like, what the hell are you asking me to do?
I've got a picture actually with me on the bike and two guys around me and me shouting, how do I ride this thing?
Yeah, I was very helpful when I asked him to ride it for us. I gave him the keys.
There you go. Off you drop.
I mean, doesn't everyone know how to ride it?
It was a very nice bike, but it's just not me.
Well, listen, I think the thing is that all bikes have a purpose, and I find that over a period of riding, what you like changes. So what I like today and what I like tomorrow isn't going to be the same. Yeah. Even if you look at some of Michael's bikes, it's a massive difference. And I think I probably always will stay with an Indian, but I might slip a little something else in the stable next door to it if I can. Just because obviously I think for me, the thing with an Indian is just a case of, it's a frame of mind. It's a way of thinking. And because I've become, this sort of lonely wanderer on the bike, it just suits my riding. Say again?
The lone wolf.
That's me.
I didn't even notice you had that on.
Exactly what I've got. This is my favorite shirts. No name dropping.
And I've just got skulls.
I'm busy finishing my new logo, so I'm going to look forward to dropping in a few T-shirts, so I can only just wear my own T-shirts from now on. Is that yours? Is yours coming? Yeah, I saw that earlier. That's good. Yeah, it's
cool.
nice. Yeah, Pete's just changed his channel name recently, and it's now something more manageable.
I've got one for Nick as well. Let me turn this light off because the light's terrible.
Yeah, when he gets his backside.
There's a story behind the name. That way.
Yeah, when he finally, Nick is one of the mates that we ride with, and he's been the first time we did one of these live shows. He was like, "Why haven't I been invited? What's going on?" So it's like, "Okay, mate, next time definitely you're in." So next time it's like, "Okay, you're in. You're coming." No, it's everything definite. And then like on the day, it's like, "Well, where's he?" And it's like, "Oh, and I can't do it." So we're waiting with bated breath for him to join us one of these days.
And if you're watching, Nick, hi.
Yeah. Yes.
All turn up round his house. That's what you want to do.
Social distancing, mate. We can only curse him. We can only curse him from the sidewalk. And it is an essential trip to go and curse him because you have to curse him. Anyway, guys, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's show. Any closing comments?
No, happy so far.
I'm all good. I'm just reading the.
There's a question from Mark Rogers. Let's just have a look at what he's got to say. He's one of my mates from. Here we go. Best thing to avoid the heat is fully lined Kevlar jeans. Yeah, that's it from Jeff Ruffland. Jeff Rutland. I think this beer has already gone to my head. So what's Mark saying? I had the same when some friends and I tried out various sizes of Harleys, street light, special breakout bobber. No one felt too big and heavy. Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's a big adjustment, and I think it's the same thing with any bike really. When you change over, you just got to spend time on it and get used to it. So yeah, sorry guys. Closing comments.
Sorry, there was a challenger question from Chris Hunter about the heat, whether the heat issue is the same as it was with the 111 TS.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a particular heat issue. There has been a recall on some of the challenger bikes, but that's already been dealt with, and that's an engine issue. It's not got to do with any heating. I'm not sure if you've got anything different, Mark. No,
they had a percentage of the challengers a recall on a rear output shaft bearing, and I was watching a video on YouTube, and one of the guys was saying the percentage works out about 6 bikes. So that's 6 bikes out of however many.
In the first few miles. So like Max Challenger is on 2,000 miles, so it's no longer an issue. So only get it to right in the very, very early stages. And I think it's got something to do with the wearing in of the motor. So you probably just want to be careful. Sorry, Pete, what were you saying?
I just said how many have they produced? He said there's only like 6 bikes, but if they've only produced 6 bikes, then...
I think there's about 400 at least, isn't there, that they've done? I can't remember how many, but... it's a small set, and they found it straight away. So there's probably none that's come over to Europe. And the problem with the issue that Chris was saying about the heat, it's a water-cooled engine now. So the heat is not being given off. It's still got the rear cylinder deactivation on it, which works because I can actually tell the difference when it actually switches off. And then it automatically cuts in. But when you're sitting there, you can just hear a slight change in the engine revs as it deactivates the rear cylinder. But the heat that comes off of it is, well, I've sat there outside my house with it getting up to temperature, and all I've felt is a bit of heat coming off the fan, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It runs a lot nicer than the other bikes. I mean, the thing is that obviously the air-cooled bikes are going to become a rarity from this year / next year because of the change in the regulations. So everything is going to go more towards the liquid-cooled side of things because of the emissions. So I'm definitely not getting rid of my bike. It's going to be
the other thing.
collectible.
The other thing is that the sound is completely different compared to the air cooled. The exhaust note is completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, my Aprilia's 1000V twin, and that's almost sounds the same. The Challenger, for that. So.
Yeah.
I think a new set of exhausts is going to go on it very soon, and I can get them.
Anyway, guys, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's watching. Jeff, maybe next time you want to come join us on the panel again. Mark, just a big shout out to you as well up north. If you were watching, maybe you can join us as well. I'll message you later. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks to everyone on the panel for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it, and make sure that I'll normally say ride safe, but I keep forgetting that nobody can ride. So I'm trying to be
clean safe now, isn't it? Clean safe
at home.
Keep cleaning.
Virtual safe.
Bloody beep 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 at home, and don't let me see you on the beep 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 road.
Keep on polishing.
Yeah, that's it. Keep on polishing. Make sure that you polish the chrome off that bike. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. As usual, guys, stay safe. If you have to do an essential journey, ride safe, but try and avoid that. Anyway, guys, see you very much. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Here we go.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.